Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. And for people who are watching for the very first time, I just wanted to say hello and welcome you to my little community here too. You can subscribe to my channel by clicking that button down below, and I just wanted to say that I appreciate each and every one of you guys, especially since yesterday I reached 70,000 subscribers. Wow, I am just so grateful for you guys who tune in daily. Well, I'm sure many of you are here with us tonight as a result of our reporting about the Duggar family, so I would be less than honest with you if I didn't include some of my own tea about the family, given some of the recent information that circulated about the family, partly as a result of a new investigation that came to light in November, which deals with Josh Duggar. Let's take a little walk down memory lane. A lot of things happened since then, but to go back in 2015, the image of the Duggar family as this perfect, wholesome American family took a major blow. Josh's secrets were brought to the public, courtesy of In Touch and other media, so the Nothing Here to Be Seen Act was no longer valid. This is also when Josh left the show, so it was renamed from 19 Kids and Counting to Counting On, allegedly about Jill and Jessa. More drama came later, with Jill and Derek eventually leaving the show, as Derek spoke out about what went on behind the scenes fairly recently. He basically said that Jim Bob never paid them, that they had no control over their own lives, nor any boundaries, meaning basically no say in what went on. While therapy hasn't solved their problems, they are trying to rebuild their lives. Despite reports that the family members were generously compensated, that is apparently not the truth. But that wasn't the end of it either. Way back in March, I shared an interview that came out with more information, and since then, more people from the Duggar family circle have come out with their own accounts. There seems to be more voices being heard about the Duggars these days, with many of the questions being about Josiah and Lauren. Josiah and Lauren's courtship and marriage have long raised questions among Duggar fans, mostly through Lauren's postings on social media and the way she appears on TV. Observant fans of the show have picked up on the fact that Lauren seems to be unhappy, or at least that is the impression that is gained through some of her postings. For example, on their one-year anniversary of marriage, Lauren went on their shared Instagram account to state that their first year has been extremely difficult, and that it is more unhappy than happy. Certainly some of that is no doubt true. Certainly the loss of their first pregnancy is heartbreaking, of course, which is no less devastating naturally. But by no means should their first year of marriage be more unhappy times than happy ones. Recently, some information has come to light that suggests the unhappy feelings are not necessarily limited to that one loss. Rumors abound that this relationship could potentially be one that is either arranged or, at the very least, strongly suggested by Jim Bob Duggar himself. Apparently, Josiah was known for his disobedience and unwieldiness, to the point where Jim Bob went to great extremes to break him and get him back in line. This apparently involved getting Josiah married to Lauren as a means of getting him back on the path with God. Now, let's go back before we continue deeper into that. Josiah was actually courting Marjorie in 2015. They even announced it big time on the TLC network before the controversy with Josh Duggar became public. However, Josiah announced with Marjorie that they were no longer courting after Josh's troubles came to public attention in April of 2015. But then a couple of years later, Marjorie, who had kept a blog for a long time and even penned a book, did express some insightful observations through her writing. Marjorie states through her book, "People who lie often will never be trusted, even when they tell the truth. Once someone becomes a serial liar, why would anyone believe them?" It is assumed that Marjorie was referring to Josh Duggar by her observations, but it seems that some of her statements could be directed at Josiah as well. She went on, "God sees it all. He sees the text that we send, the emails that we send, the comments that we leave on posts, and the messages that we send to our friends. Jesus never excluded any means of communication, even out in cyberspace. Although I would never claim that my own college experience was completely normal, at least I went through the experience of it without the trouble that is involved for you with Joe's brother," she continued. "It is devastating to watch someone whose life is going so well to just crash and burn, to morally fail, to fail in life. It is good that it doesn't have to be that way." She went on about sin that results from secrecy in one's heart. This would partially apply to Josh, since he did cheat, but might also apply to Josiah with regard to what is occurring in his life. "I thought the advice that stood out the most was about relationships. Set standards for who you will let pursue you, and make sure that you filter each possible suitor through your dad or another sound spiritual leader in your life. This will help you weed out the creepers." What she meant by creepers would appear to be Josiah, certainly so far as her own perspective was concerned at that point, as she was actually dating Josiah. Of course, some of the false statements and postings that took place online could also refer to Josh, but it is likely that it referred to Josiah too. There were also reports of a Facebook account Josiah allegedly created using a pseudonym. The name Matthew, if you must know, is where he posted pictures of himself and lived out an alternate lifestyle. I'm not entirely up to speed on what that lifestyle entailed, but it was definitely there. This came to light through Reddit postings on various online communities. Needless to say, when Jim Bob discovered about this other page, he completely lost it, forcing Josiah to delete it right away. After things went south with Marjorie, Jim Bob was more determined than ever before to get Josiah nailed down. When Josiah was a teenager, there were some indicators of some issues, but likely more from the point of view of Jim Bob than actually taking place. It does appear that Josiah is not necessarily doing anything wrong.
The Duggar children are micromanaged. Social media, TV, the radio, who they are allowed to associate with, homeschooling, even their attendance at church services, is micromanaged. At one point, they were sufficient enough to do their own church services in their own home instead of physically attending church, keeping themselves isolated and involved in the Institute in Basic Life Principles, or IBLP. We also know that Josiah was invested in something called the LIRT Academy for over a year. This is an institute that is carried out through IBLP that is for troubled youth, so that they can get back on track with their spirituality by learning about living through the word of what it means to be a manly Christian. It is pretty much an attempt to turn Josiah back to God with good values. The point of the LIRT Academy is basically to reform and re-educate someone who is on the wrong path by getting them back on the right path if they do stray. Josh went to one of these institutions shortly after the scandal of his sisters, and then he went to a camp around the time of the Ashley Madison incident. Joseph had gone back and forth to the academy a couple of times, whereas it was Josiah who attended for the longest period of time. So, according to people with very deep connections in that world, Josiah not only attended LIRT Academy for 1 year, you guessed it, Josiah attended it more than once. He also attended what is widely recognized in that subculture as a conversion camp, affiliated with Bill Gothard, who is infamous for the Pray Away the Rainbow. One of the things that's always sort of been whispered about is that Josiah's orientation is more toward men. Now, of course, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, but in this very conservative setting, it's apparently the worst possible thing, which is just so outdated. Science says that you can't do anything to disguise or change their sexual orientation. It's who they are. It's in their DNA. It is suggested that Josiah attended the seminar as well as the LIRT Academy sessions, no doubt in an attempt to rectify that situation. Of course, the Duggar family can never be held accountable for their actions or statements, but the rumors continue that Josiah is gay. So what is the current situation with Lauren and Josiah? Well, here's what is allegedly being dished by Hollywood insiders. An insider with direct information about the situation revealed that Lauren is still with, as revealed by a source who spoke with a Hollywood gossip columnist, it is true that the marriage between Josiah Bates Duggar and Lauren Swanson was arranged by none other than Jim Bob himself. Why? Josiah was getting so disobedient that Dad was trying to marry him off. In other words, Josiah was causing trouble enough that his father wanted to get him back in line by marrying him off. The source says that Jim Bob basically drew up a contract and contacted Dwayne Swanson, Lauren's dad. It's also been implied that Lauren was a difficult child, what with her possible issues or issues with her mental health, that it's not entirely clear. She herself was no cakewalk for the Swansons either. This is likened by the source to a type of arranged marriage between troubled children who are brought together to solve a bigger issue. Apparently, Dwayne wanted Josiah to marry his eldest child, Lauren, and Josiah was more or less being told that he would marry her. At this point, Josiah was testing the limits. He had the secret Facebook page, he was breaking the house rules, and he was rejecting the Duggar compound lifestyle. When it came to actually marrying the couples, Lauren got a choice and a voice, but Josiah did not get a say in what happened, according to the source. Josiah reportedly went along with it because he did not want to lose funding. His father had all the money. This is consistent with what Derek has said in interviews. Some of the children stay with the family purely for funding purposes. The source continues, Josiah agreed to marry Lauren in part because of finances. It is related that Josiah did not want to lose support financially, so he agreed to marry Lauren. Furthermore, Josiah honestly sticks with his dad for one reason, finances, since everything is about finances for Josiah. If Josiah sticking with Lauren is about finances, then what is with Josiah and Lauren's living situation? A source reveals that Josiah is living with Lauren in a house that belongs to Lauren's dad, who is basically their servant. A servant? This is what Josiah thinks is acceptable for his girlfriend? This is what his dad would let Josiah do to Lauren? Does Josiah not understand that Lauren is more than just a girlfriend? Does Josiah's dad care that Josiah is disrespecting Lauren? Honestly, the source does not believe that the marriage is going to last. It is referred to as a relationship formed under duress rather than passion. This is what happened at the wedding, or so it is alleged. Lauren's dad, Dwayne, flew up from Georgia for the ceremony. This is how the source describes Dwayne. Lauren's dad is a real nice guy. He's a conservative guy. He's got no resemblance to Jim Bob at all. While it seems that Dwayne's children do get some say in what goes on in their lives, Josiah does not. A source explains that Josiah had no say in this marriage, or any marriage for that matter. Josiah had no say in the marriage that brought him Lauren, but it seems that his antics are what brought about the marriage in the first place. This is what the source calls Josiah's rebellious phase. It was enough for Jim Bob that Josiah was. Therefore, the marriage took place, but it seems that the observations that can be made on Facebook, as well as through the TV show Counting On, reveal Lauren often standing on the sidelines, looking sad but trying to appear otherwise. It should be noted that this is a pattern that has not gone unnoticed among their fans. Perhaps this arranged marriage is one in which both of them feel like strangers, and they do not enjoy the company of each other. The source reveals that one of the reasons Josiah agreed to the marriage with Lauren is that they are financially struggling. They are going to make money through their dad. He likes to dangle carrots in front of them, or else they'll get a lawsuit. Josiah could have left his dad, but he wants money, so that's why he is staying with Lauren. A friend of the couple is revealing that Josiah is basically with his dad for one reason, the money. If Josiah sticking with Lauren is about finances, then what is with Josiah and Lauren's living situation? A source reveals that Josiah is living with Lauren in a house that belongs to Lauren's dad, who is basically their servant. A servant? This is what Josiah thinks is acceptable for his girlfriend? This is what his dad would let Josiah do to Lauren? Does Josiah not understand that Lauren is more than just a girlfriend? Does Josiah's dad care that Josiah is disrespecting Lauren? Honestly, the source does not believe that the marriage is going to last. It is referred to as a relationship formed under duress rather than passion. This is what happened at the wedding, or so it is alleged. Lauren's dad, Dwayne, flew up from Georgia for the ceremony. This is how the source describes Dwayne. Lauren's dad is a real nice guy. He's a conservative guy. He's got no resemblance to Jim Bob at all. While it seems that Dwayne's children do get some say in what goes on in their lives, Josiah does not. A source explains that Josiah had no say in this marriage, or any marriage for that matter. Josiah had no say in the marriage that brought him Lauren, but it seems that his antics are what brought about the marriage in the first place. This is what the source calls Josiah's rebellious phase. It was enough for Jim Bob that Josiah was. Therefore, the marriage took place, but it seems that the observations that can be made on Facebook, as book as through the TV show Counting On, reveal Lauren often standing on the sidelines, looking sad but trying to appear otherwise. It should be noted that this is a pattern that has not gone unnoticed among their fans. Perhaps this arranged marriage is one in which both of them feel like strangers, and they do not enjoy the company of each other. The source also talked more about Josiah's Facebook page. It seemed that as soon as Jim Bob discovered it, it was taken down right away. Josiah then went quiet for a bit. It was such a big deal for a reason. Josiah had posted a picture of himself in his own driveway. While Josiah's face was not completely visible by wearing a